This is the fifth state winning headlines, your media police post, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at some of the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 24th of November, 2022, and I am 2M.
I'm AX.
And I am 2J. And in case you missed today's headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, Kenya stares at athletics ban. The Standard, inside RUTO's radical CBC option. The Star, Musalia raids Raila turf, goes for MPs. And in the People Daily, RUTO faces revolt in his turf on maize. Today I have two messages to share. One is for the Gema Nation, and the other is for President RUTO. Gema, this week my relative from Nyeri was thinking with his mouth open. He told us that certain individuals close to President RUTO are pushing for a fallout with his deputy, Rigathi. And this is why the mountain sent Kanini Kega to Iala. He also told us that the Kenya Kwanza marriage is still fresh. And if Gema are not needed, they can walk out anytime. Today, I want to remind this Kikuyu governor that William Ruto is not a candidate in search of votes anymore. William Ruto is now president. And if he is in doubt, the governor can pray to Jesus, then Jesus will open his eyes. You see, this governor is like the blind man who went to Jesus for healing. Jesus opened his eyes, but he complained that his vision was still blurry. To make his vision clear, Jesus had to spit. Then he mixed his spit with mud and applied it on the eyes of this man, and his vision became perfect. In our view, Jesus should spit on this Nyeri man. He should spit in his eyes and spit on his running mouth, then he will see the light. And this is what my good people from the mountain do not understand. If the Kikuyus betray Ruto, the entire country will regiment against them,
Yes.
and they will be banished from politics forever.
Yes.
The Luos do not trust them. The Luyas are about to jump ship, and the Kalenjins will show them absolutely no mercy. Remember, it does not go wrong, it starts wrong. If the fortunes of the Kikuyu go wrong, it is because they have started wrong. You cannot begin Ruto's first 100 days with threats of a breakup. To do so is to wish Ruto ill before the ink on his oath of office has dried up. And so this sentiment is brewing in the mountain, and it must be monitored.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, our advice to President Ruto is to stick only to his purpose. He must not turn to the left or to the right. And this purpose is to unify the country. Even if the Kikuyus become a stumbling block, unity will happen with or without them. But we must speak to Ruto candidly, because this is no easy job. To become president, Mzee Moi had an incredible sense of tolerance and forgiveness.
Yes.
For instance, there was a police commissioner who enjoyed slapping Mzee Moi when he was still vice president.
Yes.
Each time he saw Moi, he slapped him. He found Moi in a lift, he slapped him.
Coffee.
If he saw Moi in a rally, he slapped him. It was a sport.
Yeah.
And this is a true story.
Yeah.
Then Moi forgave him when he became president. The country was in shock. Now that Ruto is president, he must be as tolerant as Moi. And his biggest test on tolerance will come from the Kikuyu nation. Therefore, this weekend, Ruto should pray for the Gema nation. He should pray for Jesus to spit in their eyes in order to see the light. And we invite Gema to consider their future. Should things go wrong for them between now and 2027, Kikuyus will have no one to blame but themselves.
Wow.
Wonderful.
So since the elections, Baba has been mostly silent. Has me wondering, has he lost his mojo? Today is the first time he has spoken out on a political matter in months. He said nothing when UDA said they wanted to extend term limits for Ruto. He was silent when Oparanya abandoned him. And yesterday, when Mudavadi met with 35 MPs from Western Kenya from both political parties, Baba made no comment. This led us to ask one simple question. Why has Raila been silent? And why did he decide to break his silence today? I ask this question because it is time for us to face facts. Fact number one, Baba has a political shelf life. And after 40 years in our politics, is he not exhausted? Raila may recognize that it is time to prepare for a future where he does not represent the opposition. Which takes me to fact number two. Raila has not been completely silent. He does not respond to every passing political matter, only the ones that affect the everyday reality of Kenyans. Even today, when Raila broke his silence to warn Kenya Kwanza against impeaching the Cherera Four, he did so because he saw it as an attempt to bring back the Nyayo regime, a regime which preyed upon Kenyans like lions in a bush. Therefore, is it possible that Raila's silence on political matters is about creating space for a successor to emerge? I ask this again because his silence creates enough distance between him and his followers to be freed from the Raila charisma. Robert Greene advises us in the 48 Laws of Power that we must become the focal point of people's desires if we want power. Right. This is Law 27. It therefore stands to reason that the opposite is true. That if Raila wants to transfer power, he must fade into the background. Now, is this what Raila is doing? By remaining silent, is Raila allowing his followers to move on and prepare themselves for someone new? But allow me to flip my argument here for a moment. This whole time we've been talking about Raila the politician. But let us consider Raila the man for a moment. The man who has sacrificed everything for country. Could he be questioning what he has to show for it? The presidency has always been far from his reach. And even when he had the support of the state, it was not enough.
Correct.
To make things worse, this support came at the cost of his traditional bases. Voters in Nyanza and the coast stayed at home and denied him the numbers he needed for victory. Now, if you were Raila, wouldn't you take some time to reflect on all that you have done and what it has cost you? Wouldn't you take a moment to ask yourself if it was worth it? And ask yourself what else you have left to give? Perhaps that is why Raila broke his silence today in defense of the Cherera Four. After observing the country, perhaps Raila has realized there is only one role that only he can play. Indeed, when Raila speaks, the country listens.
Yes.
And so he used his voice to ring the alarm bells once more, to warn country of the dangers of governance without opposition. If this is the case, then this is not the last you've heard of and from Raila Odinga. He's just getting started.
Whoa. This Thursday, I'd like to ask President William Ruto to reconsider his position on debt. Your Excellency, debt is good. In fact, the only remedy for harsh economic times is debt. I'd go further and suggest that Kenya should not live within its economic means. Kenya must live beyond its economic means. And my premise here is no country got to first world status by living within its means. Living within your means is for banana republics. Allow me to explain. In 1963, South Korea asked Mzee Jomo Kenyatta to lend them a $10,000 loan. Jomo Kenyatta gave it to them. You see, at that time, South Korea's economy was in bad shape. Their people were also facing starvation and on the verge of death. But exactly 3 years later, South Korea had paid off the loan. They continued borrowing to fund their industrialization, and by 1986, South Korea had a debt to GDP ratio of 54%, the fourth highest debt profile in the world. But South Korea had also hit first world status. By 1986, South Korea had a GDP per capita of $2,800. Kenya's GDP per capita is barely $2,000 now. At the time they borrowed loans from Kenya, their debt to GDP ratio was 2.5%. This means that in 20 years, South Korea had borrowed 30 times more what they used to borrow in the 60s. But in just 20 years, they built more wealth per person than Kenya has done in 60 years. What's my point here? President William Ruto yesterday got a loan of $1 billion from South Korea. At the time South Korea was asking Jomo for a loan in 1963, Kenya's GDP was $1 billion. Put differently, South Korea has multiplied the $10,000 Jomo loaned them 100,000 times and loaned it back to us. We were once at par economically speaking with South Korea, but now they're the 10th wealthiest nation on earth. And here we are talking bottom up.
So So your point is for us to spend more, borrow more,
spend
dig
more.
more.
Even if you have to pay pending bills of 500 billion shillings, you can do that. That will revive the economy.
Yeah, that's so true.
The tale of the $100. But I mean, saying this saving thing and all that, it's only banana.
How can you save when you have nothing?
Absolutely, you have nothing. Britain had to borrow. The country that borrowed the most in the 1800s was Britain, and they were the first to industrialize from agrarian to industrial to complete the industrial revolution. What is wrong with us?
All right. On that note, we have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines by. We ask ourselves: is the headline topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally thoughtful or just plain lazy? I want to suggest that we toss a standard inside RUTO's radical CBC option, boring. I want us to also toss the Daily Nation, Kenya stares at athletics ban. Just for your information, we have 27 of our elite athletes who have violated the rules on anti-doping, and Kenya is on the horizon to be banned further. So yesterday's headline, we're going to be banned from international finance accessibility. Today, we're going to be banned from athletics. What more? Toss the Daily Nation. People Daily, RUTO faces revolt in his turf on maize. I am of the opinion that this is a distraction. I don't think RUTO is going to allow this to happen at the heart of the rift.
Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you.
I want to toss the People Daily. Leaving us with Musalia raids Raila turf, goes for MPs. As AX told us, Mudavadi met with 35 Western MPs from across the political divide, I believe, to talk about development. And are they wrong? If Mudavadi is the prime CS and he represents Western, I too would go have a meeting with him.
I tell you what, by 2027, Raila will have to move to RUTO. If his core support of lawyers move to William Ruto, he has got no other choice. And that is how Kikuyus be politically fixed.
In fact, I feel like they're fixing themselves, the Kikuyus.
Yeah,
they've already said they want a breakup. You know what? Divorce papers can be written up immediately.
Absolutely.
All right, so there we have it. The Star gives us our winning headline. On to the political pieces that we call cartoons, but we also have a three-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is the cartoon humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally, effective or just plain lazy? I want us to start with the Standard.
Standard in today's cartoon, Moses Kuria there, caricature Moses Kuria, seated in the doctor's office, and the doctor is diagnosing Kuria with a genetically modified, and he says what the doctor says it appears you have a genetically modified brain, GMB, that compromises your thinking capacity. And there is Moses Kuria with his tongue. I think it's a forked tongue. It's a snake tongue. Yeah. And I think, my goodness, they are calling out Kuria for what he said on GMOs, and I think that was in bad taste. But I don't think we should crucify him because really, and Tuje, you said it yesterday, the first meeting of the old Kibaki, of the old Uhuru cabinet, that the first motion that was passed in cabinet, when Ruto was president, it was a GMO thing. Yeah. All right. And this cabinet has a head. It is a president. So I think Kuria is William Ruto's Rasputin. He's doing all the bad things for William Ruto, and he's taking all the flack and making William Ruto look good. And I give it to Moses Kuria. He's playing that role very well.
So you don't think that he has a genetically modified brain?
No, it's not. Moses Kuria is a very, very sharp man.
That's actually very true. I hear him speak sometimes, and I get quite shocked at how smart he actually is. I think maybe sometimes the accent misleads us.
He is the right candidate for that ministry.
That office, I agree.
He's the right candidate.
All right, I like the cartoon. Let's park it while we look at the Daily Nation.
So in the Daily Nation today, we have caricatures of the IEBC commissioners who differed with Chebukati on chairs designed to eject them forcefully once a button is pressed. Chebukati is smiling as he watches them, and the Parliament building is in the background. Now, as you know, the chair for there are hearings going on in Parliament that started today to decide whether or not they will be removed from the IEBC.
Yeah, and I think quite interestingly, Baba, Kalonzo, and Martha all showed up for the hearings. The chair for decided not to show up themselves, but sent their lawyers instead, because they say these proceedings should not happen while they're actively in court. And I think what's interesting about the image is they're holding on for dear life to their seats, as though they don't want to leave. Again, our advice to them time and time again has been just resign with some modicum of dignity left. then again, that's up to them.
If you can, if there's a lawyer as one of the commissioners, please talk to Musalia. If there's a Kikuyu as one of the commissioners, please talk to Rigathi. Your sins will be forgiven.
I know.
And we keep you moving.
Do a handshake, right? Keep it moving.
Yeah.
All right, let's park that one and let's look finally at the Star. In the Star, we have caricatures of Meru Governor Mwanganza and Trade CS Moses Kuria. Their bums are on fire. They're smoking from impeachment, and we have some pigs who are
And
pigs who are blowing.
And there's a hyena there.
And a hyena. I think the pigs are blowing the fire on them, not putting the fire out. They are igniting the fire. Okay, of course, context here, impeachment motion for Moses Kuria, and 67 out of the 69 Meru MCAs moved to impeach Mwanganza. Guys, this is day what, 71, and we're already moving to impeach people. Are we not the most pessimistic nation on earth?
No, I think, it's political processes. This is what you get with a democracy like ours. But this is Ozon's way of saying pants on fire.
Pants on, possibly.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, that's a good point. I think we're doing the interpretation on his behalf. Okay, so what do we say is our winning
Gado.
tune?
Standard.
Gado?
Gado wins it.
The sneaky Moses Kuria wins our winning headline from Gado of the Standard, and our winning headline comes from the Star. Don't forget you can find us on your TV screens. We're on Pang Free to Air, GoTV, and Star Times. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. I believe Damaging Ignorance might be coming back. We will see you this weekend.
God bless.